Good morning guys and welcome back to the channel. Of course, if you're new to the channel, great big warm welcome and hello to you. We've been doing our little sun dance because guess what? We're 2 films in and the sun is shining. We're not going to knock it, guys. My name is Jean-Paul and this is The Seated Gun. So guys, we are not in the field. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing our 2nd episode of our behind the scenes series. So you'll have seen our first series, which of course is behind the scenes of the British Shooting Show. And if you want to see that film and you haven't seen that film, then make sure you click somewhere up there. You'll be able to click on that and have a look at that. Now guys, when we think of artists and sculptures and all these types of things, we think of delicate things and nice brush strokes and all this type of stuff. Well, today, guys, we've got something really, really different, really, really unique. And I have to say, you've probably seen a few of these things because I know that I have on certain roundabouts across the country. Every now and again, you'll be going around these things and you'll see some things on the floor that are sculptured and made out of wood and all this type of stuff. Well, we've done better than that, because we don't go looking for those types of characters. We bring you only the best, of course. So guys, what we've done today is we've got you a guy that really is off the chart. Some of his stuff on Insta, on the photos and all that type of stuff, you may or may not have seen. If you haven't, you're definitely going to want to check him out, trust me. And all I'm going to say is, rather than using paintbrushes and sculpture knives and all that type of stuff, this chap uses one of these. Now, yeah, whenever I'm loose with one of these, trust me, it's more like the Chainsaw Massacre than it is anything of any nicety or delicacy, should I say. But this guy is going to show us exactly how, if you know what you're doing, you can make one of these do exactly what an artist does with a pen or a pencil. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Rob from Daltonwood. Rob, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you as always.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming down. So, Rob, we're here with a bloody great lump of wood.
Yeah, nice big lump of cedar. Beautiful.
Just tell us a little bit about why cedar, because obviously, you know, a lot of our viewers and followers at home are going to be thinking, well, can we just do this with any old bit of wood? I presume that it's got to be a certain type or a certain specific element of wood.
Yes, cedar is my sort of preferred timber for doing this, just because it's really nice to carve and because it weathers really well. It's naturally slightly oily timber, and you see it used for cladding on buildings and whatever, and it goes that nice silvery grey colour. So it lasts really, really well. So this sculpture will outlive you and me anyway.
Fine. And I'm assuming with, I mean, obviously, you know, when we chop wood up for the fire and stuff, you know, going back to basics, when it dries out, it does go light, doesn't it?
Yes.
You know, it sort of hollows itself out in a way.
Yeah.
How does that work with something like that? I mean, I appreciate it's a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work? Will that actually go light over the time? Will it hollow itself out in a way so that it becomes a light piece of art, or will it stay as heavy as it is as you see now?
It will fluctuate throughout the seasons, so it'll take moisture on and it will lose moisture over time. I finish all my sculptures with oil, with Osmo oil.
So that sort of protects them a little bit?
Yes, but it still allows the wood to breathe. So just like anything natural, it will take on moisture and lose moisture over time. So it'll find, for this location, it'll find its own stability and change throughout the season.
So like a living tree, really, in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Fine. So guys, Robbie's now going to work his magic. Now trust me, I'm just going to sit and admire because, yeah, as I've already said, me loose with a chainsaw is like a chainsaw massacre. So it'll be interesting to see how Rob, I'm going to hopefully pick up some points. So when I'm chopping up trees for the fire, I can be all delicate and all arty about it. But that'll be a different film. Anyway, guys, keep following. You're going to enjoy this one. This is something that has never been featured on a channel before, you know, carving and sculpting to this degree. So we thought we'd have a chat with Rob, so Rob can fill us in. Rob, let us know. What I think what we would like to know, and certainly what our followers would like to know, is, I mean, is this something that you learn, or is this just something that you... It's a natural habit. It's a natural thing that's in you, shall we say?
I think for me, it was just something that I discovered I could do because I can't draw to save my life. So, but through a process of recovery, really, from the PTSD, I was off work and thinking, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine said, well, you know, what about chainsaws? What about forestry or tree surgery, something like that? And I thought, oh well, that could be a good thing, getting out, fresh air and what have you. So I was having counselling at the time, and I went to my counsellor and I said, I don't know whether this is a good thing or not, but I'm going to learn how to use a chainsaw. And she was really, really supportive. And off I went. Did a course with a guy who he was so infectious and really enjoyed what he did. And he was doing a bit of carving the following week himself. And I said, do you mind if I just come along and watch and see whether it's something I might enjoy? So I turned up and he had this big pile of timber and a couple of stands, and he said, there you go, a couple of chainsaws, off you go, have a go. And
have you always been arty though?
No.
Not at all?
So that's the other thing. My sister said to me, where does this come from? You've never had an artistic bone in your body.
Right, okay.
So I was like, and I said, I really don't know. And as it was explained to me, it was neural pathways. You're going through a recovery process. You kind of break old neural pathways, you create new neural pathways, and I've inadvertently discovered this thing that the chainsaw becomes an extension of me, and I can create something in 3 dimensions, and I don't quite know how, but I can just kind of see it and feel my way into it. And
so it's a bit like escapism, really.
It is, yeah. Oh yeah, I absolutely lose myself into creating whatever I'm doing, and I love it. I love the process of discovering, particularly with animals, where their eyes sit in relation to their nose or the mouth and the beak and different.
So you've had to actually become quite arty then, really.
Yes, and yeah, it's the whole process I love. Come in and have a conversation with you about what you would like, and then interpreting that and then turning it into something as I understand it should be, and that changes even whilst I'm carving, because I notice grain patterns and that I might be able to follow.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So when you are ultimately you've got a commission to do you actually go and look through piles and piles? For example, when we're choosing a wood stock for a gun, there is mountains of them to choose from at different levels, different grades, and you know the gunsmith will ultimately put oil on them, and you decide whether you want it honey coloured or darker, or you want this type of grain, or you want this that way or that the other way. So how does it work, for example? Because obviously you're getting rid of the predominance of the outside of the tree, the bark. So we're down to what is ultimately the grain.
Yeah.
But you can't actually see that, can you, when you're picking a piece of timber?
No.
So how does that actually work?
To some extent, I've just got to wait and see what I find when I get inside.
Right, okay.
I take the...
It's a surprise, really, then.
Yeah, yeah. See what we've got. Occasionally it doesn't work. With something like this, it will. It's a pretty straight piece of cedar, and they usually have some quite nice grain patterns, especially when you oil it. And we've got a fairly specific thing that we're creating here. There's less influenced in this by the timber, but I will do certain different things, maybe using some of the sanding techniques and stuff that I use in the burning as well.
And of course, every piece that you create is unique.
Yep, no two are the same. And I do that intentionally as well. So I'm requested to make owls a lot, but I still, when I'm making an owl, I'll still do subtle little changes to the way I've made owls before, just to keep it fresh. But they're always going to be a one-off, unique piece of art.
And I'm also assuming that it's not just a point where if someone does commission a piece, they have to actually, you have to get the piece of wood for them. If they've got a tree in their garden or on their estate, for example, and it's fallen over or it's broken, whatever, if the wind's knocked it down, that's something that ultimately you can transform.
Yes.
It's not a point that they've got to have a new bit of wood. You can
all.
physically work on something that's been there for years, possibly.
Yes, yeah. That's quite a bit of my work. So if somebody, last year we had quite a few storms and trees were coming down left, right and centre or partly down, so a tree surgeon will go and fell that tree, but if they leave a big tree stump, whatever size you like, I can then go and turn it into a sculpture.
What's the one that sort of stood out the most? I mean, obviously we've looked on your website and on your Insta, and there's everything on there from buzzards to owls to squirrels to all sorts of bits and bobs.
I've done a Land Rover. I've done a two series.
I wasn't expecting that.
Land Rover.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Great.
So how many years Daltonwood? How long has it been going? And I know it's a reasonably newish business, but
I spoke about PTSD before. So I had that diagnosis and I've been off work in 2000, sort of early to mid 2018.
So just to interrupt you there,
Yeah.
obviously PTSD came initially from you serving in the forces,
Yeah.
and obviously coming back with that from overseas and one thing or another.
Yeah. Yeah. So the PTSD was, it caught up with me eventually in 2018, and really started to impact on me. It made me quite poorly. I was really lucky in that I managed to get counselling and start a really good recovery process. I was also conscious that I couldn't remain in the job that I was in, so I had to look at something else. And I had a friend actually who used to come and knock on at my house and say, "Come on, we're going for a walk," and we'd go off, take for a walk with the dogs and chat about the world, the life, the universe, and everything in it. And he said to me, because I've always liked the outdoors, and so he suggested to me the use of using chainsaws, and away we went. So I went.
And Daltonwood was born.
Daltonwood was born, yeah. So officially the January 2019, and it's just been an absolute. It's just been life changing. I really enjoy the process of creating stuff. I really enjoy that it puts a smile on people's faces, it's a kind of a win-win for me, really.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It brings pleasure into people's lives, and and I enjoy doing it myself. So,
and am I right in saying this year you're going to be exhibiting at 2 or 3 different shows, I believe?
Yeah.
So you're at the game fair, obviously.
Yes, at the game fair at Ragley Hall. At the end
So you'll be taking some of your designs, some of your sculptures there, and I presume they'll be available to purchase or to have commissioned accordingly.
Yeah, they will. Yes, I'll have a stand there.
Make sure you pop in and see Rob on his stand, because there'll be, I'm sure, plenty to look at and plenty to admire. Which you might even be tempted to get your wallets out and purchase a few items, but it's well worth a visit regardless. Rob, all I'm going to say is thanks very much.
It's been a pleasure.
We're looking forward to the finished article. Obviously, we'll put Rob's link below, so you can click on that, and make sure we'll put all Rob's contact details in the follow-up on the scripts pages as well. So give Rob a call if you have any inquiries, of course. Rob will talk to you and go through anything you want to do. But well worth a chat. Rob, thanks very much, mate.
Thank you very much.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you.